Hi everyone, welcome to my channel. I am Amber, and on this channel we will speak about everything plus size fashion, beauty, and lifestyle. So this is probably my fourth video now, and based on some of the earlier ones, I was getting feedback that I was using some terminology that maybe you guys weren't fully familiar with. And to give you a little background on my history, my 9 to 5 is actually as a fashion designer. I am a plus size fashion designer. I've been doing it for over 12 years. And so a lot of those terminologies are coming from things that we use in the industry. In order to bring you along for the ride, I've decided to create this shorter series called Fashion Facts. And in Fashion Facts, each one we will discuss a different tip or trick that you might really need to know when buying clothes for yourself. So today's Fashion Fact, we're going to be speaking about measurements and how to measure and how they correlate to size scales and size charts. So if you're like me, you'll order something from online, and let's be real, a lot of plus size shopping is online, so it is an evil necessity, but you'll order something online and it'll come in and it won't fit. Maybe it'll be too big, maybe it'll be too small, maybe the sleeves won't fit, various reasons why it doesn't fit. And like I said, if you're like me, I'm not so great at looking at the size chart before I buy things. I just kind of look at the product and look at the fabric and I'm like, oh yeah, that should be good. And based off of that, I find myself doing a lot of exchanges and returns when maybe I could have had a better chance of success by looking at the size chart. Let me know below, do you guys look at size charts or do you just look at the photos and the descriptions? Would love to know how you guys are shopping and choosing things for you. So we're all familiar with the fact that modern day size charts are not standardized, which means that if you go to a different store, things can fit differently from store to store. This is super frustrating, but it's also a big reason on why it's important to look at size charts before you buy in order to have the best chance at a successful purchase. A little history about size charts goes back to the early 1900s. And actually, the creator of Lena Bryant, she had a hand in creating what was then called Stoutwear industry. So it was industry for plus size people, but it was considered Stoutwear at the time. The original size chart was actually based off of the body measurements as women were corseted. So the average size 14 bust on their size chart would actually have the equivalent of a size 8 waist, which kind of shows that very extreme shaping that corsets would have given. So Lena Bryant and her husband, who I believe was an engineer, they both patented this idea of extended waist, like elastic in the waist, and this was able to let them fit more sizes and then branch out into this Stoutwear category, which in the early 1900s actually became a big idea. However, don't let that trick you into the fact that maybe plus size women or stout women of the time were appreciated and accepted into society. Actually, a lot of them were looked down upon and called freaks in some literature. If you want to know more or hear more about plus size fashion, the podcast Dressed actually does a really great episode on it. I will link it down below, but it is the podcast Dressed, and the episode is called The History of Stoutwear Fashion. It's a really good listen. I think it's about an hour. But yeah, it's really interesting to go back into the history of plus size fashion. Back in the 21st century, what you'll need in order to follow size charts today, or to find your measurements rather, is a tape measure. So a standard tape measure goes up to 60 inches. But if you need a little bit extra, there are plenty of tape measures that go up to 90 or 120 inches. So you can find those. I'll link some below, as well as if you just want a traditional one, a lot of those are sold at pretty much every store now. So, your local Walmarts, Targets, grocery stores might even sell them. You'll also want to wear the undergarments that you're going to be most likely to wear. So if you're the type who usually wears a padded bra or a sports bra, that can definitely change the projection and the fullness of the bust. So keep that in mind when you're measuring yourself. And then lastly, you're gonna wanna wear some clothes that are more fitted. So no sweatpants, no oversized hoodies. I'm wearing today skinny jeans and a fitted top. And so to measure yourself, there's 3 key measurements. You have your bust, you have your waist, and you have your hip. When you're measuring yourself, pull the tape taut around you, but don't squeeze it too tight. So in order to measure the bust, you're really looking at the widest part or the fullest part of the bust. It's kind of hard to see from the front, so I'll turn to the side. And as you can see, this will probably be the best spot for me. So my bust is measuring 49. The waist, especially on plus size women, can be a little trickier. If you're an hourglass, if you're a pear, it's a lot easier because those body types have characteristics of a defined waist. But if you're like me, who's kind of a square, but then kind of curvy, it's a little bit different. It's like, well, what's the right place to measure? Also, as you gain more weight and if you have more of a tummy, you'll notice that the waist doesn't necessarily go straight across on your body. It kind of dips a little bit down, but you're gonna wanna take that measurement straight across. You're kind of thinking about it as, where would the waist seam of a dress, where would my denim hit? And most likely, it's gonna be kind of a straight line that cuts across the body. So what I like to do is go to the small of your back, so that smallest little part of your back, and use that as like an indication of where your waist might be. And then just measure all around. As you can see, mine is not necessarily touching my waistband here because I feel like I have a long torso. So for me, just a little bit up is actually where my natural waist would be. And mine's measuring 46.5. And then for the hip, once again, the same as your bust, you want to find the fullest part. And from the front on me also, it looks about here. From the side, though, is probably a better indicator because this is where I have most of my fullness. So I'd say like probably around this area is going to be most accurate. Okay, and that measures a 56. So my measurements are 49, 46.5, and 56. So let's take my measurements and see how they compare to the size charts of a few popular plus size retailers. So first, looking at Eloquii, my size 49 bust would make me about a 20. 47 waist puts me in between a 22 and a 24, and 56 hip puts me also in between a 22-24. Next, looking at Torrid, my 49 bust puts me at a size 20, my 47 waist at a 24, and my 56 hip at a 24, between a 22 and a 24. If we look at Target, 49 bust puts me at a size 20, 47 waist puts me at a 22, and 56 hip puts me at a 22 as well. So I would wear their 2X. And lastly, let's look at Lane Bryant, where it all began. My 49 bust puts me between a size 20 and a 22. 47 waist puts me between a 24 and a 26. And 56 hip puts me in a 26. So that's really interesting that 3 of the retailers I sat in about the same spot of their size chart, whereas Lane Bryant, I was about 2 sizes larger in the bottoms. So, I mean, that goes to show that don't be deterred necessarily by the number on your jeans or the number on the back of your shirt. just buy something that'll fit you well, because at the end of the day, you're gonna feel more comfortable in a garment that fits well than by the little tag on the back. And you can always cut it out if you don't wanna see it or be reminded of it. But at the end of the day, sizing is kind of arbitrary. And that's it. That's the basics of measuring. Hopefully this will help you next time you go to order something online. And as always, really appreciate you being here watching my videos. Please subscribe, like, comment, leave a message and a thumbs up. And I'll see you next time.